Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
We continue reading from teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We are hearing about Lord Chaitanya's teaching to Prakāśānanda Saraswati and the other sannyasis of Banaras. So we
Can I
continue
read?
reading. Please.
The
Yes, please.
living entities are not as great as Narayan Vishnu, who is beyond this material creation. Even Shankaracharya accepts Narayan to be beyond the material creation. Since neither Vishnu nor the living entity are of the material creation, someone may inquire, why were the small particles of the spirit created at all? The answer is that the Supreme Absolute Truth is complete in his perfection when he is both infinite and infinitesimal. If he were simply infinite but not infinitesimal, he would not be perfect. The infinite portion is the Vishnu Tattva, or the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, and the infinitesimal portion is the living entity.
So someone may say, no, why Krishna made us? Why we are so tiny? What's happening? We are tiny, 1/10,000th tip of the hair. That's really tiny. So we have to understand that absolute truth is complete. There's nothing which is not there in the absolute truth. It's everything is there. When we are saying Om Purnamada Purnamida, that's the invocation of the Sri Upanishad. It's complete. There's nothing missing. So as the Lord is unlimited, the Lord is also infinitesimal. Now, how we'll say, how is the Lord infinitesimal? The unlimited portion is, of course, Vishnu Tattva, and the infinitesimal portion is we, the Jeev Tattvas. We are too tiny. We are tiny, tiny Krishna, if you may say that. Because we are, after all, his parts and parcels. We have his qualities. But just to a very, very tiny degree. That's the point we need to understand. That we are not as great as Krishna is, but we are infinitesimal. Infinitesimal. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
The living entities, due to the infinite desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual world exists. And due to the infinitesimal desires of the living entity, the material world exists. When the infinitesimal living entities are engaged in trying to fulfill their infinitesimal desires for material enjoyment, they are called Jiva Shakti. But when they are dovetailed with the infinite, they are called liberated souls. There is no need to ask, therefore, why God created the infinitesimal portions. They are simply the complementary side of the Supreme. It is doubtlessly essential for the infinite to have infinitesimal portions, which are inseparable parts and parcels of the Supreme Soul. Because the living entities are infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme, there is a reciprocation of feelings between the infinite and the infinitesimal. Had there been no infinitesimal living entities, the Supreme Lord would not have been inactive, and there would
We
be
have been,
very
would have been active. Would have been
sorry.
inactive.
Oh, sorry, sorry,
This
sorry. Had there been no infinitesimal living entities, the Supreme Lord would have been inactive, and there would not be variegatedness in the spiritual life. There would be no meaning to a king if there are no subjects, and there would be no meaning to the Supreme God if there were no infinitesimal living entities? How can there be meaning to the word Lord if there is no one to rule? The conclusion is that the living entities are expansions of the energy of the Supreme Lord, and that the Supreme Lord, the personality of the Godhead, Krishna, is the energetic.
Makes sense, no?
Mm.
If there's a king without a kingdom, then what is the meaning of such a king? Isn't it?
Yes.
Because he has a kingdom, then he has this position as a king, then it has meaning to it. Similarly, here we are trying to understand, if we were not here, if we were not there, then what is the meaning of God? But now, because we are here, then there is a great comparison, and we can see, oh, God is how great, and we are so tiny. Right? Okay.
In all Vedic literatures, including the Bhagavad Gita and the Vishnu Puran, much evidence is given to distinguish between the energy and the energetic. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.4, it is clearly stated that earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the five gross elements of the material world, and mind, intelligence, and false ego, the three subtle elements, are the Lord's energies. All material nature is divided into these 8 elements, which together comprise his inferior nature or energy. Another name for this inferior nature is Maya or illusion. Beyond these 8 inferior elements is his superior energy, which is called Paraprakriti. This Paraprakriti comprises the living entities who are found in great numbers throughout the material world. The purport is that the Supreme Lord is the absolute truth, the energetic, and that as such, he has energies. When one of his energy is not properly manifested, or when it is covered by some shadow, it is called Maya Shakti. The material cosmic manifestation is a product of that Maya Shakti.
So we say God is omnipotent. Omnipotent means he has many potencies. Potencies means energies. Means he has many, many energies. Right? So then they are broadly divided into spiritual, material, and the marginal energy. We are the marginal energy, the jivas. So we are the superior energy. Why are we superior than the material nature?
Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we are the soul.
Because we are
Because
conscious.
we are conscious.
We are the soul. We are the soul. Yes, we are part and parcel. We are conscious. See, the material energy is made of this earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are dead elements. They are not conscious. They're moving. They appear to be alive, but they're just moving. There's just transformation. Transformation, like the sun will evaporate the water from the ocean, there becomes the clouds becomes the rain, the wind is moving the clouds. So like this, it seems there is movement, so it seems alive, but actually it's dead. There's no consciousness in them. So that's the inferior nature, material nature. We, the living entity, we are the superior nature, the para prakriti. And then so this is all spoken in the Vedas. The Bhagavad Gita is saying, Vishnu Puran is saying that we are one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. Just as the sun and the sunshine, as you said, no, part and parcel. So we are part and parcel. We are one of his energies. And then it's pointed out, it's Maya Shakti. Maya, what does she do? She has this illusory potency and a throwing potency. She, throws us here in the material world, material realm. And she has this illusion. She has captivated us by the illusion that we are the body. We are not able to understand, oh, I'm not the body, actually, I'm the soul. She is, so captivating. And then this material cosmic manifestation, this material world as we are seeing, as we are experiencing, that's a product of this Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti is Krishna's energy.
The living entities are factually beyond discovered inferior energy. They have their pure spiritual existence, their pure identity, and their pure mental activities, all beyond the manifestation of this material cosmos. Although the living entity's mind, intelligence, and identity are beyond the range of this material world. When he enters into the material world, due to his desire to lord it over matter, his original mind, intelligence, and body becomes covered by the material energy. When he is again free of the covering of this material inferior energy, he is called liberated. When he is liberated, he has no false ego, but his real ego again comes into existence. Foolish mental speculators think that after liberation, one's identity is lost. But that is not so, because the living entity is eternally part and parcel of God. When he is liberated, he receives his original eternal part and parcel identity.
Revives.
The
Revives.
realization, sorry,
He revives his original.
oh, revives his, okay, he receives, no. When he is liberated, he revives his original eternal part and parcel identity. The realization of Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit, not this body, does not mean that the living entity loses his identity. At the present moment, a person may consider himself to be matter, but in his liberated state, he will understand that he is not matter, but spirit soul, part of the infinite. To become Krishna conscious or spiritually conscious and to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Krishna are signs of the liberated stage.
So right now we are thinking, I am this body. Our consciousness is that I am this body. We completely forgotten I am a pure spirit soul. And the spirit soul, he has a spiritual mind, he has a spiritual intelligence. Right now, our mind and intelligence is all material, making us think more and more that, yes, you're the body, you're the body. And then, what is the false ego?
That I'm this body, that's the false
That's
ego.
right. That's right. And what is the real ego?
That I'm the servitor of Krishna, that
Yes,
I'm not
that's
body.
yeah, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. That's the real ego. So here, Lord Chaitanya is trying to explain to us when someone says Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit, that is all, that is the real ego, no? That I am is still there. Because some people think, oh, when we are liberated, we don't even have any ego. Ego is dissolved. No, but what is dissolved is the false ego. That's what we have to understand. And then we are situated in the real ego, that yes, I am spirit. Doesn't mean that I have become God. When I'm thinking I become God, again, that is false ego. So when he's saying I am spirit, means he still exists, no? That's why he can say I am spirit. I am not the body, I am the soul. But as soon as he says I am the soul, the individuality comes, means he's still existing. So what we are trying to understand again and again, because it's so deep rooted that, oh, once I get liberated, I don't exist anymore. I'm going to become one with God. But we are trying to understand that no, that's not the real position. All the Vedas, all scriptures are saying the soul exists, continues to exist, never dies. The individuality of the soul is always there. Okay.
In the Vishnu Puran 6.7.61, it is clearly stated, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetre Jnana Tatha Para Vidya Karma Samjnanya Tritya Shaktir Ishyate. The energy of the Supreme Lord is divided into three, Para, Kshetra Jnana and Avidya. The Para energy is actually the energy of the Supreme Lord Himself. The Kshetrigyan energy is the living entity, and the Avidya energy is the material world or Maya. It is called Avidya or ignorance because under the spell of this material energy, one forgets his actual position and his relationship with the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that the living entities represent one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. As infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme, they are called jivas. If the jivas are artificially placed on the same level with the infinite Supreme, because both of them are Brahman or spirit, then bewilderment will certainly be the result.
So Lord Chaitanya is trying to explain that we are energy of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna. We are not Krishna. We are energy of the Supreme Lord. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We are not the Supreme Lord. Because if we think we are the Supreme Lord, that means we are still continuing with our false ego. The false ego is still there. Okay.
Generally, Mayavadi philosophers are perplexed because a learned Vaishnav becomes the Mayavadi, cannot explain the cause of the bondage of the living entities. They simply say it is due to ignorance, but they cannot explain how the living entity can be covered by ignorance if they are supreme. The actual reason is that the living entities, although qualitatively one with the Supreme, are infinitesimal, not infinite. Had they been infinite, there would have been no possibility of their being covered by ignorance. Because the living entity, it is infinitesimal, he may be covered by an inferior energy. The foolishness and ignorance of the Mayavadi are revealed when they try to explain how the infinite can be covered by ignorance. It is offensive to attempt to qualify the infinite by arguing that he is subject to the spell of ignorance.
Right. So here Lord Chaitanya is saying it's offensive to say that God is covered by ignorance. To think that God can be covered by ignorance is actually offensive. And then how can we actually understand? Oh, that no, God can never be covered by ignorance. We, the spirit souls, we are covered by ignorance. Why? Because we are infinitesimal, because our size is so tiny. That's the reason we can be covered by material energy. Although material energy is inferior, we are superior, no? The jivas, we are superior. We just said that because we are conscious. Then how is it that material energy is able to cover us? Because we are tiny. Although we are superior, our size is so tiny that we always need shelter. We are taking shelter either of the spiritual energy or of material energy. This is how. Is that okay?
Yes. So they're trying to explain our position,
That's
right?
right. Yes. We have to understand our position that we are not God. It's not that I am God and I'm covered by ignorance. It's offensive if I think that. I have to understand that I am part and parcel of God. I'm very tiny, tiny, infinitesimal. And that's the reason I can be covered by ignorance. I can be covered by material nature, even though material nature is inferior. Right now, we are not able to get out of this material nature, but this illusion of Maya. Even though she's inferior, we are not able to give it up. Why? Because we are very small.
Because
We are minute. That's why she can cover us, even though she is inferior. That's the point we have to understand.
Although Shankara attempted to cover the Supreme Lord by his Mayavad philosophy, he was simply following the orders of the Supreme Lord. It should be understood that his teachings were a timely necessity, but not a permanent fact. In the Vedanta Sutra, the distinction between the energy and the energetic is accepted from the very beginning. The second aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yatha, clearly states that the supreme absolute truth is the source of all emanations. Thus, the emanations are the energies of the Supreme, whereas the Supreme himself is the energetic. Shankara has falsely argued that if the transformation of energy is accepted, the supreme absolute truth cannot remain immutable. But this is not true, despite the fact that unlimited energies are always being generated. The supreme absolute truth remains always the same. He's not affected by the elimination of emanation of unlimited energies. Shankaracharya has therefore incorrectly established his theory of illusion.
Yeah, so Shankaracharya is just simply doing his duty. This was a service given to him by Krishna. He's doing his service of creating this word jugglery. It was, as it is said, timely necessity. It was needed at that time, but it's not a fact. The energy and the energetic are different. We cannot compare the sunshine to the complete sun. The heat and light in one molecule of sunshine is very different than the heat and light of the entire sun, isn't it? Can't compare it. Imagine if the sun were actually to enter the room, we would be burnt immediately. But sunshine enters the room, nice, it's so good, nice and warm. So there's so much difference, right? So the emanations are the energy. We, the jivas, are the energy of the Supreme Lord, whereas the Lord is the energetic. Now, what Lord Chaitanya is saying, that Shankaracharya has argued that if there's transformation of energy, then the absolute truth means he is changing. No, but it's just his energies. He has many, many energies. That's the point we have to understand and accept. But if we think that, oh, God has no energies, then that's where the illusion comes in. That's where the illusion. But the correct way to understand is, yes, when we are saying God is omnipotent, what does it mean? That he has so many potencies and there's transformations happening in these energies. That's the correct way to understand that Krishna himself, he is never changed. He's always transcendental. He never comes under the control of material nature. He just has many, many energies. That's the position of God. We can't be jealous of him because of that. We just have to accept that yes, he has. Whereas our capability is insignificant, infinitesimal. Krishna's capability is unlimited. That's what we have to understand. Are there any questions or comments?
No. So that means that when some people said कि ये जो कृष्णा ने किया है उन्होंने इतना हर्ट करा कि उस वजह से उनको भी वो कर्म लगेगा, that is wrong, right? This is what we are trying to say, that he is not under the modes of three nature.
Yes, Krishna is never under the modes of nature.
Yeah, right? That's what we are trying to understand here.
Yes, he's never under the modes.
He's above. Like if you tear, then it doesn't matter. Like he's still.
It's like this. Okay, how we can understand it, okay? Suppose now during the day, but it's a cloudy day. So the sky is full of clouds, right? Now what's happening? Actually, what's happening is this, and so because of the clouds, we can't see the sun. So what is the actual position is the clouds are obstructing our vision of the sun, right? Because the cloud is there, cloud is We can't see the sun. But is the sun actually, is the cloud actually covering the sun? Can the cloud actually cover the sun?
No.
No, right? Can't, because the sun is too big. It's
Yeah.
too big to be covered by one cloud, or many, many clouds even. It's too big. Similarly, the material energy, she cannot cover the Supreme Lord. She covers our vision of the Supreme Lord. She does that. But she can't cover the Supreme Lord. He's too big. He's unlimited for him to be covered by the material energy. Yes?
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.